You walk into a room and forget why you went in. You're mid-sentence and the word you need, a word you've used 1,000 times, just isn't there. You're reading the same paragraph for the third time. If you're over 40 and this sounds familiar, I want you to know something important. This isn't the beginning of the end. It's often the beginning of a conversation your brain is trying to have with you. And a lot of that conversation is about food. Today, we're looking at 8 specific things to eat and 1 or 2 to cut back on that can meaningfully sharpen the fog. Let's get into it. Quick context before the list. After 40, a few things shift at once. Blood flow to the brain gradually decreases, insulin sensitivity drops, hormone levels change, and the brain becomes a little less efficient at clearing out metabolic waste overnight. None of that is catastrophic, but it means your brain is more sensitive to what you feed it than it was at 25. The good news? That also means nutrition has more leverage now than it used to. Number 1, fatty fish. Salmon, sardines, mackerel, herring. Your brain is roughly 60% fat by dry weight, and a significant portion of that is DHA, a specific omega-3. After 40, levels tend to decline, and lower DHA status is consistently associated with poorer cognitive performance. A 2022 analysis published in Neurology looked at over 2,000 middle-aged adults and found that those with higher omega-3 levels in their red blood cells had larger hippocampal volumes and better abstract reasoning scores. 2 portions a week of oily fish is the standard recommendation from most cardiovascular and neurological bodies. Tinned sardines count. They're cheap, and they're one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. Number 2, berries, especially blueberries, blackberries, and black currants. What makes them interesting for the 40-plus brain is a group of compounds called anthocyanins. These are the pigments that make the berry dark, and they cross the blood-brain barrier. Research from the Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging at Tufts University has shown that regular blueberry consumption is associated with slower rates of cognitive decline in older adults. Here's the thing I want you to hear. You don't need a bowl of them every day. A handful most days of the week on porridge or yogurt is enough to matter. Number 3, leafy greens. Spinach, kale, rocket, watercress, chard. These are the single most underrated brain food, and the reason is a combination of folate, vitamin K, lutein, and nitrates. The nitrates in particular matter after 40 because they help your body produce nitric oxide, which relaxes blood vessels and improves blood flow, including to the brain. A landmark study from Rush University, published in Neurology in 2018, followed nearly 1,000 middle-aged adults and found that those eating roughly 1 serving of leafy greens a day had the cognitive function of someone 11 years younger than their actual age. Number 4, extra virgin olive oil. Not the light stuff, not the blended stuff, the proper, peppery, cold-pressed kind. It contains a compound called oleocanthal, which is the reason good olive oil gives you that slight throat catch when you taste it neat. Early research suggests oleocanthal may help the brain clear beta amyloid, the protein that accumulates in Alzheimer's. 2 to 3 tablespoons a day, used cold on salads or drizzled over finished food, is the Mediterranean pattern that keeps showing up in brain health studies. Number 5, eggs, specifically the yolks. Egg yolks are one of the richest dietary sources of choline, a nutrient your brain uses to manufacture acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter central to memory and focus. Most adults in the UK and US don't hit the recommended intake for choline. 2 eggs deliver around half a day's worth. And no, the cholesterol question you're about to ask has largely been put to bed for most healthy adults, but check with your own doctor if you've been advised otherwise. Number 6, walnuts. They are, charmingly, shaped like little brains, which is possibly the best bit of food marketing nature ever did. But they also happen to be the only tree nut with a meaningful amount of plant-based omega-3, ALA. A 2020 study from the University of Minnesota and Loma Linda University tracked older adults over 2 years and found that regular walnut consumers showed slower cognitive decline compared to non-consumers, particularly in those from lower income backgrounds who tended to have poorer baseline diets. A small handful, about 30 grams most days, is the pattern that shows up in the data. Number 7, and this one you may enjoy. Dark chocolate, 70% cocoa and above. The active compounds are cocoa flavanols, and they do two useful things. They improve blood flow to the brain, and they appear to support the formation of new connections between neurons. A well-known 2020 study in Scientific Reports used brain imaging to show that a single dose of high flavanol cocoa improved oxygen delivery to the brain within about 2 hours in healthy adults. Be sensible, though. One small square, not the whole bar. Let's be adults about this. And number 8, fermented foods. Live yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso. This one is the newest science on the list and the most interesting. Your gut and your brain communicate through what's called the gut-brain axis, and the bacteria living in your gut produce compounds that influence mood, inflammation, and mental clarity. A 2021 study out of Stanford, published in Cell, found that a diet high in fermented foods, specifically, reduced markers of systemic inflammation more effectively than a high-fiber diet alone over a 10-week period. Lower inflammation means a clearer-feeling brain. I want to stop for a moment and say something directly. If you're watching this and you've tried a few things for your brain fog already, a supplement someone recommended, cutting out a food group, buying a gadget, and nothing quite landed, I get it. That's a frustrating place to be. What I'd offer is this. Brain fog after 40 is rarely about one thing. It's usually a slow accumulation of small deficits, which means the fix is also small, consistent, and stacked, not heroic. Stacked. Briefly, 2 things worth eating less of if brain fog is a recurring theme for you. First, ultra-processed foods, particularly those combining refined carbs with industrial seed oils. There's strong and growing evidence linking high intake to poorer cognitive outcomes in midlife. Second, alcohol. Even moderate intake appears to affect brain volume and overnight memory consolidation, and the 40-plus brain tolerates it less gracefully than it used to. If you want 2 things to actually do this week, not next month, not once you've read up on everything, here they are. 1. Add 1 portion of oily fish and 1 handful of dark berries to your week. That's it. Tinned sardines on toast, a handful of frozen blueberries in the morning yogurt. Done. 2. Swap 1 source of cooking fat to cold extra virgin olive oil drizzled onto finished food rather than heated. Those 2 changes alone touch omega-3s, anthocyanins, and polyphenols, 3 of the most studied nutrient categories for the aging brain. If this was useful, the best thing you can do is subscribe and stay with us. We're unpacking one of these nutrients in much more depth next week. Look after yourself.